to your name on the Zoom ID. Arnie's here if you need record permission, so ask him for that. He'll take care of you. And if you have a question, use the virtual raised hand function. Just ask that you limit your questions to no more than two, at least on the first time around. If you have a follow-up, we'll take those time permitting as well. Well, after the Easter holiday, the NTT IndyCar Series is back at it this week, round five of the 18 race NTT IndyCar Series Championship, and a return to the legendary and sunny streets of Long Beach for the historic Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Our guest is on a bit of a roll, really, to start 2026. Two podiums to start the season, including a runner-up finish at Barber Motorsports Park, and last season scored a career-best third on the streets of Long Beach. He drives the number seven Arrow McLaren Chevrolet. We welcome in Christian Lundgaard. Christian, thanks for doing this.
No, thank you very much.
I know you're looking forward to really getting back on track, especially after the strong finish at Barber. I mean, what do you think will take you know what it will take to carry the momentum, I guess, that you've had there into this very important race coming up on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've really just seen the beginning of the season how momentum really plays an effect, right? We obviously saw the first three races back to back. The merge with NASCAR in Phoenix, the new event in Arlington, having that week off, going to a track that I drove an IndyCar on for the first time at Barber and had a good race there last year. Finished second last year, finished second again this year. So. We're going to a track now where we finished third last year in Long Beach. So I think just from a momentum perspective, I think we're in a good spot. Obviously, just excited to go back to Long Beach. I think we were missing a little bit of pace throughout the weekend. I think we're good in the race. Definitely still need to find some pace for guys like Kirkwood and Palou, who just seems to really be there on those types of tracks at least this year. So. No, really excited. I mean, we got a good stretch of races coming, obviously, with the addition of the new Markham race and also DC later in the year. I think there's a lot of excitement.
What do you look forward to the most at Long Beach? Obviously, you had, as mentioned, the third place finish there, so you obviously like the track.
Not crashing in qualifying would probably be my top priority. No, I definitely made the weekend very interesting last year. With the crash in qualifying, tubbing the car, having to change chassis for Saturday to Sunday, just doing all those checks and warm up. And we didn't really get to go through our program, and obviously still having that result in the race. I think the main priority for this year is just have a smooth, successful weekend. Obviously, knocking on the door for a good result. I don't necessarily think we need to go out there with the mentality of we need to win the race. We need to go out there and improve our package from last year, and then the results will come because we were competitive last year. I still think we're missing a little bit of pace. But it's really just keeping that consistent and solid mindset of we just need to be there and let it come to us.
And last thing I know, it's obviously a very busy month of March, but you did have a little downtime. You had the opportunity to play Pebble Beach, I guess. Was that last week? You want to tell us a little bit about that, the event you were at?
Yeah, that was Thursday last week. I had a full week of golf last week. My
Nice.
girlfriend was playing a tournament in Dallas. I flew out to see her play Monday and Tuesday. Flew home Tuesday night, left for California Wednesday morning. Got to play golf with Nolan on Wednesday, and then played Pebble on Thursday. Had Friday off, and then played again Saturday, Sunday. So my
Nice.
weekend off, my week off was spent well, let's say.
What kind of a golfer is Nolan?
A He's actually a lot better than I think he gives himself credit for. He doesn't play a lot. I definitely would rank myself as one of those who plays the most. I would definitely say, but I mean, my girlfriend is a collegiate golfer, so it kind of makes sense. Definitely a good coach to have on the side. If one day racing falls through, then maybe I have a backup plan. I've never had a backup plan in my life, so maybe this is the one. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Well, we do know you chose wisely when it comes to your golf game. So there you go. Well done. Well played. All right, open it up for questions. Again, if you have a question, use the virtual raised hand function. Let's go ahead and begin with Bob Pockras from Fox Sports. Then Joy will come to you after that. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Christian, I'm curious with now going back to the Fast Six being single car and the driver getting to choose based on the second round kind of results. How do you see that playing out? And are you glad or upset that they've instituted this?
No, I think it's a great addition. In all honesty, I think it was very interesting seeing how it was going to play out in Arlington. I think, with it being so new and I'm not going to say it was spontaneous, but it was with very short notice going into Arlington, so there wasn't a lot of preparation or understanding of how it was going to play out. And obviously the alternate tires on the street courses are very sensitive. So I think just seeing how the first car on track in the Fast Six was the fastest car, probably just from tire performance was interesting. So I think that's change going into the rest of the season now, knowing that Q2 actually has a little bit more of an effect on your qualifying thereon, I think is a pretty cool and interesting addition. Because I think it allows you to be a little more strategic in some ways. But again, I think we have to see how it really plays out in Long Beach. I think Long Beach will be very different to Detroit, for example. I think we're maybe going to see something a little more similar in Markham as we did in Arlington, but all tracks are very different. So I mean, I like it. I have no complaints.
And is there anything you saw in the new rule as far as using two sets of alternates on the street courses that in the first two races that either surprised you or you didn't anticipate that that you can now adjust for going forward?
I think this has been very universal to all the tracks this year with the alternate tires. I think it's been very split throughout the field who believes in the alternates in the race. And obviously I think that depends a lot on car setup, how your car is treating the tires. I think we see cars that are more abusive to the tires and some cars that are nicer to the tires, and you see different strategies in the race. Long Beach being a track where a two-stopper is in play, I think we're going to see the cars that are struggling keeping the tires underneath them having to three-stop, and it's a big penalty to add that extra stop. So in the first couple of races, I wouldn't necessarily say there's anything that surprised me in that aspect. I think Arlington was a surprise for everybody, regardless, with the lack of information and it being a new event, and just having to be reactive.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, Bob. We'll see you in a couple of days. Joey Barnes, motorsports.com. Go ahead, Joey.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Hey, Christian. Um, I'm kind of curious. Obviously, you've got a good run of momentum here to start the year with a couple podiums through the first four races, but it was a little bit of a gut punch for you at Barber because all signs pointed to a potential win. I'm just kind of curious, like, how do you, I mean, going back and looking at the data, do you get a chance to kind of talk to your right rear tire changer, lift their spirits, and then two, you know, is it good to have that break after an incident like that, or is it bad to have this bye week going in before Long Beach just because you had the run of momentum?
yeah, I mean, I think we're in a very similar position to what we were last year at this point of the season. At the end of the day, we had a good start to the season last year. We were on the podium for three out of the first four races. This year it was two out of the first four. But obviously the situation in Barber is what it is. At the end of the day, I think it is a good thing that we have a break afterwards, for all of us to sort of unite and just talk it through. But I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Because the whole weekend, I personally didn't see the performance that we had on Sunday ever happening. There was no indication from my own perspective and the information and the data that we had that was indicating that we are going to be so strong on Sunday. And I think it caught us all a little bit by surprise, being in that position, even fighting Alex for the win was nothing that I ever dreamt of on Saturday night. It wasn't really a thought that ever popped into my head. I think we were looking at just a solid race, maybe knocking on the door for a podium, maybe a top five at the time. And we go out there the first stint, we're so competitive, the mindset changed so fast to, hey, let's get the best day we can here. And everybody wanted to be fast on that last stop, right? And we wanted to get that win. at the end of the day, it is super frustrating. We almost threw away a second place, right? Because we got Graham cleared very, very easily. And I think that is the lesson to be learned, that, take that extra little time to make sure everything is on. Because once the car drops, like it is a much bigger penalty. And I think that's what we saw, because we ended up getting out behind Graham. And if we would have spent a second more, making sure the tire was on again, there was no indications that the tire wasn't on. So it's really just a big miscommunication at the time, and it's very unfortunate. I mean, I don't blame anyone. We lose and we win as a team, and last year in Long Beach, I put the car on the wall, topped the car. We had to change the car, and they did a phenomenal job, and we repaid them on Sunday by putting the car on the podium, and that's the kind of team that I have behind me. So there's no hard feelings. We're all going to move on and get better from here.
Yeah. And then just lastly, you look at how this season has kind of played out with yourself, with Pato, with Kirkwood, and we see how things are with Alex Palou right now. Does it feel like this is the closest that the field has been, or some of the challengers have been, to Alex in a long time? Like, does it feel like y'all are right there, or does it feel like there's still a gap?
I think the way that I see it is there's more competitive cars, and Alex have had some bad luck. And I think that's brought everybody closer.
So I guess so there's still a relative gap, if not for that luck, in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's cars that are a lot closer to him on performance than prior years, and I think we saw that in Arlington with, he doesn't need to win the race. He can still finish second because he knows the next weekend he's going to be competitive. We were pressuring them on strategy on Sunday and Barber, and they made the mistake by pitting him into traffic. So it is possible to put them under pressure and get them to make mistakes. We unfortunately made a mistake in the meantime, under that pressure as well. So that is a situation that we need to improve. But again, it just proves that it's doable to put them under pressure and for them to make mistakes.
Awesome. Thanks, and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joey. Dan Jones, Dive Motorsports. Hey, Dan.
Hi Dave, hi Christian. Hope you're doing well. Obviously, as we saw in Barber and Club, a lot of other races who've been in the podium in recent years, it seems like you're always behind Alex on track, no matter when you get a good result. So, as a competitor, when it's the same guy kind of beating you every single time, is that something that's slightly demotivating and frustrating? I guess. How can you overcome that?
Well, I almost, I wouldn't say it's demotivating. I'd almost say it's more motivating in a way, right? It definitely sucks. You're up there and you feel like you've had a great weekend, and it's just the same guy every time that's another step further up. But I think, we haven't helped ourselves this year on Saturdays to put ourselves in better positions. So I think if we see Barber, if we would have started further up, we would have almost walked away with it quite easily. And I think that's the takeaway for us, that we're capable of producing great race cars on Sunday, but we need to be better on Saturdays to give ourselves a better chance against the 10 car. And you look at last year, I do personally believe that we everybody is closer to the 10 car than last year. I think last year he was a step ahead of everybody, and it almost looked easy. Where I think this year he's under a little bit more pressure from multiple cars, which I think will make the difference on the long run.
When you say Saturdays as a focus, I remember you saying this after Barber and the race as well. So, kind of how can you work on that? So something maybe that's stopping the team from executing strongly on Saturdays. What kind of can you do to kind of improve that performance?
Well, I think it's kind of reading the track progression, kind of the progression on setup changes throughout the weekend. I think we've taken some wrong turns, um, which is obviously in the chase. Like St. Pete, for example, was a very clear example. We were trying to chase a little bit of lap time going into qualifying. We went the wrong way on setup. We simply just undid it for Sunday, and the car was in a much better window, and it was kind of sort of similar to Arlington, where we weren't really that keen to do anything. We still did something going into qualifying. Again, it was the wrong way. We paid the price for it. We went back to where we were, at least similar to, and we were much better on Sunday. And then Barber comes around. We were throwing everything at it all weekend. We weren't really able to find the pace, and in qualifying we didn't do anything. And we were very competitive in Q1, and the pace disappeared for Q2. So it is a very there's a lot of parts that really plays a part in it. I think it's not as simple as a yes and no answer, or it's this or it's that. I think we got to read the track progression better, and really have the right setup at the right time. And I think we've missed that for multiple different reasons. It's never the same reason. So it is a little tough, and I think that's it's very mentally draining when you know you're putting in so much work and you're not seeing results from it.
This question, good luck this weekend. Just Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Megan Smith, the girls who? Go ahead, Megan.
Hi, Christian. I hope you're doing well. So, ahead of Milwaukee last year, you said that you didn't have many expectations joining McLaren, and you were going into the races just looking to have fun. Has that mindset adjusted now that you're in your second season with the team?
Oh, it's the exact same. Never has changed. And I think that was a part of our success last year, which is also another reason, don't change what's working at the end of the day. And I think we're trying to fine tune. There's definitely races we want to win more than others. And again, we want to be competitive at every single event. We know where our package is strong, and we just need to execute. And even if it isn't strong, we know where we need to improve. So I would say the overall mindset from me, but also the whole seven crew and the team is very, very similar.
Amazing. And you mentioned earlier about having momentum, but how important is it to have a good weekend this weekend to bring that momentum into the month of May and the Indy 500?
Yeah, I definitely think Long Beach is a little bit of an outlier in comparison to the GP. I think you rather want to be better at the GP, and I think we shot ourselves in the foot there last year for again multiple different reasons. Where we had a great Long Beach, we're obviously thinking we're going into the GP. It's one of my historically best races, and we're just going to walk away with it, and that wasn't the case. And I think that was a mistake from our side from a mental perspective. We're looking at it as it was going to be easy. Certainly wasn't, and it was a big struggle for us that weekend. And then we went into the month of May with that. So I think there's a lot of learnings from us leaving Long Beach last year to going into the GP, because I think we'll focus a little more on just keeping a neutral mindset and expectation going into the GP versus Long Beach.
Amazing. Thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Eric Smith from IndyCar.com. Eric.
Hey, Dave. Christian, kind of continuing the golf theme from earlier. You and I were talking, I was here last year, the season before, about how a round of golf is like an NTT IndyCar Series season. Just can you further that combo? Just like what do you see of the similarities of both? I know we kind of talked about there's at the time 18 races or 17 races, 18 holes. Now we've got 18 of each. So kind of just dive a little deeper in that combo if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's 18 holes, there's 18 rounds. I think it's just like what I enjoy about it is you get out there and you get to be competitive with yourself and push yourself. And with the lack of testing that we have, you need to find ways of staying mentally prepared and mentally strong, and even find ways to improve. And I think, the more time you spend in the gym, kind of dies off in some regard. And I think going out there, I enjoy very much going out on a Monday after a race weekend, walking 18 holes, doing some active recovery and just having fun with it. But just to elaborate on the 18 holes versus 18 rounds, I always see it, if you make a bogey on the first hole, you shouldn't really panic going into the next hole, trying to make up for it. The mindset should always be put yourself in a great positions, and the putts will fall eventually. So I very much see that the same way, and I think that's just the mindset that I have for racing regardless. I don't see myself needing to go and win every race. I need to put myself in a position to fight for the podium, and then at some point those results will produce themselves. So yeah.
And when you kind of enter like a good hole for you or a good race, does the approach change, like, hey, I've got to maximize the result on this hole or this race compared to maybe another hole or race or a track that you don't necessarily think you're going to get a win, but maybe a top 10 versus a podium or top 5 on one you're strong at. Does that approach change at all at different tracks or holes like that?
I would say it probably changes more on the golf course than it does in a race weekend. If there's a drivable par four, you're probably more likely to go for it, because there is nothing on the line, right? Um, Probably if you're in a competitive kind of tournament or outing or whatever it might be, you might think differently about it. But if I go out there with my friends and potentially some of the other drivers and we're playing, we're just having fun, right? If you go for it and you don't make it, then that's a different story versus you go to a racetrack, you're competitive at, you don't necessarily need to try anything in particular. You just need to go out and execute. And I think that is the game of golf at the end of the day is you need to put yourself in great positions to land the ball where it needs to go. And that's very similar to racing. And a race weekend is you don't need to turn things upside down. You need to execute with what you have. And if that is a 10th position car, then you need to finish 10th. If it's a race winning car, you need to win the race. So I do definitely think it's a great exercise, but I would definitely think, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of golfers here that can agree with me. It's a lot easier to stand on the tee box and be like, oh, I can reach, I'm going to go for it, but it's not the smartest play.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome. Thanks, man. Safe travels this week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Harvey Briggs, rides and drives. How's your golf game, Harvey?
It's pretty mediocre, Dave. So I'm I have a good game of client golf, I guess they like to call it. Um, Christian, thank you very much for being here. First of all, you talked a little bit about being off the pace of Alex and Kyle. Where are you off the pace, and what do you need to do to make up that difference?
Well, ultimately, I think it's just purely qualifying pace. We've seen on race pace we're actually quite a little bit stronger than they are. And I think that, really comes down to how you activate the tires, how to utilize the tires as the weekend progresses. I think we've always been in very good positions on Sunday with tires, and I think that's put us in a better position. And again, that is not being in the Fast Six. It is not qualifying well enough. And I think moving forward, that's where we need to find pace. We saw last year, I crashed in qualifying last year in Long Beach, but being in that position, we've seen it time and time from Scott Dixon. You don't necessarily need to qualify in the front to have a great race. You can still utilize the extra alternate tires that you haven't used because you didn't transfer. If it is a preferred red race and the leaders are on two sets of used alts versus us being on two or three new sets, that makes a huge difference on race pace. So where we've been this year, we've been a little stronger on race pace, and what we need to work on is qualifying better so we can utilize that pace in the race and finish better.
Great, thanks. And one more question. You're third in the championship right now, a few positions ahead of your teammate. Does that change the dynamic in the team at all? Does it change how you prepare for the weekend coming up?
Not at all. Again, it goes back to last year. We were in the exact same spot last year at this point. We were just ahead of the five car last year after four races. I mean, for me, it's the mindset, the mentality, the preparation doesn't change from one race to another, from season to season. There's fine tunings here and there, of course. But I think Pato and I have been really, really good at using each other to try to make the team better because we have two very different driving styles. We prefer two different things, but it's merging those to create the best package. I think we've seen time and time again. We will start very similar. We'll move away from each other. The next weekend we'll start two separate islands, and we end up in with the same car. And it's just trying to pick those things from race weekend to race weekend, but also year to year to utilize for the team performance. And I think we've done extremely well with that. I mean, being ahead of him, that's great, sure. But we got 14 races to go. There's a lot that can happen moving forward. I have two cars ahead of me in the championship, and those are the two cars that I'm focused on. Um, if anything, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm focused on leading the championship after round 5.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Luis Salinas. Go ahead, Luis.
Hi, Christian. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dave. Christian, this will be this weekend the first Grand Prix of Long Beach without one of the founders of this event. As I spoke about, I'm talking about Jim McCallion. I'm sorry for my voice because I have a great memories from Long Beach.
Yep. I think it's what Jim's done for Long Beach has obviously been tremendous. It wouldn't be here without Jim, and I think it's very similar to Mr. Barber at the end of the day. And may both rest in peace, and we will bring the legacy moving forwards, create great races and keep those two racetracks in the memory of IndyCar and create these memorable weekends and events. Personally, I've had great memories there. I've had great memories with Jim, all the conversations. He was always a funny guy. I think the majority of the conversations we've always had have been in the drivers' meetings when we get to hear about, us young drivers getting to hear about the history of the events, the drivers that he's had the pleasure of talking to, hosting at the Grand Prix of Long Beach, and just being a part of that now, and kind of carrying that forward.
Yeah, correcto. All the best at this weekend, Christian, and I don't know, probably, time will tell. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Luis. And thanks for the question about Jim. And well said, Christian, on that. Carolina Figueroa. Go ahead, Carolina.
Yes, thank you, Dave. Okay, hi everyone. My question is of Christian. Tell me, Christian, whether you consider it the turning point that now allows you to fight against establishing teams and drivers. Thank you.
At the end of the day, I think you're always you know who the strong teams are, you know who the strong cars are. And I think they prove it back to back, weekend in, weekend out. Who you're really fighting. Again, there's cars and teams and drivers that make runs throughout the year. We see Scott Dixon not having qualified very well in the past 3 years, but he's always there on race day. He always makes strategy work. He always has the pace when it counts on Sundays. And at the end of the day, he still finished third in the championship last year. He wasn't really the guy that anyone was thinking, was going to be in that situation, but you can never count him out. So again, he's in a good car. He's in a good team. He's a good driver. His history speaks for itself. But I think I never really think about those things. I always think what's in front of me. How can I utilize the performance on the car and the surroundings that I have around me to the best of my ability.
Okay, so more question, please. Can you tell me how about the preparation for the race weekend? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time on the golf course. Myself, obviously, I've spent this whole last week, just spending time for myself and, being out there and clearing my head, but also just preparing. I do a lot of training on the side of that. Had a bunch of meetings today for the Indy Open test, but also for Long Beach with my engineering group and the whole engineering group in general. Obviously staying physical fit and trying to prepare myself best from that. But I would say the things that we're really looking at, just to go into a little bit of detail, because I know that's what you all want to hear. We're looking at where we were strong, where we were weak last year, where was the strongest cars really good, what are the trade-offs that we see from those cars, what information do we have from ourselves, where were we lacking in P1, how was that progression going into P2, what could we have done better, really just revisiting the conclusions from 2025 and even prior years. What do we expect with the alternate tires for this year? We know it's mandatory to run 2 sets of alternates. Already pre-planning the strategies in some way, and just staying ahead of the weekend.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thanks, Carolina. Noah Reed from Kenny Wallace Media. We have about maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes or so remaining in this. But go ahead, Noah, you're up next.
Thanks, Dave. Christian, this is going to be your 5th start on the streets of Long Beach. And you touched a little bit earlier about, obviously the struggles in qualifying last year with the crash. And I'm curious what a perfect lap at Long Beach looks like, because now that you've had the experience, you've had the good days, you've had the bad days, what does an ideal lap around that tricky track look like?
Well, the simple answer is being faster than everybody else. I've had qualifyings. I've had laps where the lap felt terrible and we were P1. I've had laps where that felt like the best lap I've ever driven and we're 6 tenths off the pace. It's not as simple as really just, what does it feel like going through the corner, because the performance of the car really needs to be there. But I definitely would say it's making it through the first 3 corners, going through turn 1 and through the fountain and the 2 tricky right-handers, 4 and 5. After that, the braking zone for turn 9 is super tricky. There's a lot of lap time to be gained in braking performance around Long Beach. But I just, I would always say it's make it through each corner by corner. Once you're looking at the delta on your steering wheel, in a qualifying lap, if you're better or if you're worse. If you see it being negative and you're faster, there's almost that tendency to push a little harder, which is both a good and a bad thing, because you're either going to push too much or it's going to be the perfect amounts. But it's definitely a very awesome track and it's a pleasure to drive around. And it's just, once you get that right and the feel right, from a personal perspective, you don't really think too much about the lap time if it feels good.
You talked about turn 9 being a tricky braking zone, and then the first 3 turns. And I feel like one of the cool parts of Long Beach is you're right there in the heart of the city. And obviously, a lot of the street courses do the same with IndyCar. But what makes Long Beach unique for you?
I would say the fountain for sure. The hairpin, turn 11. I think those are the 2 of the most unique corners in IndyCar. I think the other 2, the other real corner I can think of is the corkscrew at Laguna Seca, right? That really stands out. Yeah, I'd probably say that the fountain is the more memorable corner of Long Beach for sure.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
Thank you, Noah. Let's go to Chiara. You're up next with Christian Lundgaard.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, Christian.
Oh.
How much have you learned and improved alongside such a strong benchmark like Pato since joining McLaren?
Definitely, I learned a lot about Pato himself. I would say, in terms of how he approaches things, we're very different in that aspect. I think we see it a lot from just his personality. It's very reactive. It's very Pato-ish, which I think is a good and a bad thing. We all have different ways of approaching things. He has his way, I have my way. He's a tremendous guy to work with. We're very good at picking each other's brains and just really trying to elevate the team's performance and help each other. Like, I really wouldn't say that I can think of a time where we've deliberately tried to keep anything from each other. A question comes, how do you achieve this minimum speed in this corner? We sit down and we go through it and we try to help each other, which only strengthens the team. He has a very different driving style in ovals than I do. I think I'm a lot closer to Ryan Hunter-Reay. So it's been very nice having Ryan out for Phoenix, and you obviously joined the team for the open test and the 500. But just seeing how Pato drives, I think is the best thing. You learn something even though it doesn't suit your eye. And I think that's been the biggest learning curve with Pato.
Okay. And aside from qualifying, what is the one area McLaren needs to work on to put together a title-winning campaign from here on?
I would say consistently fast cars. I know it sounds very silly and simple, but it really is as simple as that. We need to roll off the trucks a little better because I think that will help us on Saturdays. Yeah, I mean overall we need a stronger package from the first practice onwards. I guess
Okay.
that's what every single team's going to say at the end of the day, but it's true. It's how racing works.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, thank you. We've got time for two more. We'll go Ellie and then Issa after that to wrap us up. Ellie Roddy from the fastest sector. Go ahead with Christian Lundgaard.
With Tony Kanaan coming in as team principal, how has he helped you with yourself this season so far?
Tony?
Yeah.
Oh, Tony. Tony's very Tony-ish. I love Tony. Tony was a big part of me joining the team in the first place. I think we had a lot of good discussions before I joined the team and in the winter between 25 and this year, just on the things that we need to improve. And he's extremely good at understanding things from a driver's perspective, and I think that's where the benefit of him being a team principal now, obviously running more of the business side of the team and running the team as well. When we us drivers say something that the engineers might not really pick up on, he's that extra voice that can translate, with his experience. So I think he's in a good spot for that. Helping us as a group. He's a tremendous mentor to me as well. Whenever I have a question or I just want to pick his brain on something, he takes the time and we sit down and we chat, which I appreciate a lot, and I know he does as well.
Has he given you any points for Long Beach for this season so far?
Say that again, sorry?
Has he given you any pointers for Long Beach?
I wouldn't really say so. We're as a group between the drivers and the engineers and those three individual groups, with our technical director, and Eric as well. We're obviously just focusing on improving the package as much as we can. I think we were three cars knocking on the door for the Fast Six last year. I don't think we had pace for pole, but I think we were all knocking on that door, and none of us ended up getting through because I crashed, which ruined the two other cars' fast 12 laps, which made our qualifying performance look a little worse than I think it was last year. But I think from a Tony's perspective, he can always come with any sorts of hints or advice for us drivers. But again, I think we've all been to Long Beach enough times. It's really more if we have a question for him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. Okay, Issa Nunez from Fast Tracks Podcast. Go ahead, wrap us up with Christian. Go ahead.
Thanks, Dave. Hi, Christian.
Hello.
Given the momentum from recent races, how likely do you think it is that we'll see you winning the Indy 500 this year?
Well, I hope so. It's the seventh race of the season, and I am seeing a lot of sevens lately, so that's good, I guess. Race day is on my mom's birthday, and now I'm just going off on all the things. But no, I'm excited. I think I had a great conversation with the engineering group today about things we want to try, about things we think we need that will help us, just elevate the performance from the seven car. And yeah, I mean, I've got nothing to lose. So I think that's really the main thing. It's, you have cars out there that know that they're fighting for championships, which, we're in that championship hunt, but, Alex has now won it. And I think he's going to think more championship this year than he's going to think about winning the 500 in the moment. I think he's going to be a little more forgiving in that later stage of the race. So I think, for me, it's go out there and don't really think about the consequences. Just really go for it.
I hope you win. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Issa. So a lot of sevens. Hopefully you're not putting sevens down on your scorecard when you're playing golf.
No, I hope not.
Just going to throw that out there. Hey, we'll go ahead and wrap it up and leave it there for now. Christian, thanks so much for your time. Safe travels, and we'll see you a couple days out in SoCal.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And a reminder for everyone else, coverage of Sunday's Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach begins at 5:30 p.m. That's Eastern Time, 2:30 Pacific on Fox, Fox Deportes, Fox One, Fox Sports app, and IndyCar Radio. Transcripts, video of this news conference will be available very shortly on the content site as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.